Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, depending on when you're watching this. Welcome to your next section of your nutrition talks. We are focusing on habits still. We talked last time about habits and how to start building positive habits that help you on your journey. And we're going to explore that a little bit further today. So, anyone that's ever written a to-do list will understand the value of writing things down and how writing things down is going to increase the possibility of remembering them and being able to action them. And this is no different for your habits. And what we're going to start with is something called a habit statement. So with your habit statement, you are physically writing down what habit it is that you want to create or you want to improve on. So your statement would be, I am 90 to 100% confident I will do something at this point for the next 7 days. So let's explore that a bit further. So the gold standard of these statements is, I am 90 to 100% confident that I will do something when something else happens in order to work on something or to improve something. An example of that would be, I am 90 to 100% confident that I will eat one portion of veg at lunchtime in order to improve the quality of my diet. So there you have a really clear action, a really clear trigger, and a really clear outcome that you want to improve. And making it that simple and that straightforward is really the key to making a habit statement that works for you. So we talk a lot about, or we think a lot particularly about making everything perfect, particularly when you want to lose weight, when you want to get fit. You tend to want to do it really quickly. You want to look exactly the certain way. You might want the numbers on the scales to be a certain thing. And that can be quite a dangerous thing to do when it comes to your habits, because you're setting your barrier very high. And what we're going to talk about is how to make it work more sensibly for you. So firstly, you have to be 90 to 100% sure that you can stick to this habit. If you make it too difficult, you are likely to fail. And if you fail, it means you're not going to implement it frequently enough for it to become a habit and to reinforce that habit loop. You want to make it so easy, it feels that it is impossible to fail. So you couldn't possibly fail at this task. It needs to be something easy because, one, you want to build the confidence that this is a process that works, and two, you want to put in place some really good habits that you can build on and improve on. So let's think about how to make it a bit more personal. And if we look at that, I'm going to eat more vegetables at lunchtime or more vegetables at each meal to improve the quality of my diet. So if eating more vegetables is really tricky for you, if you've never eaten them and you don't particularly enjoy them, saying to yourself, I'm going to eat 2 to 3 servings of vegetables with every meal for 7 days to improve the quality of my diet is probably setting the bar a little bit too high. So what you can do is you can say, okay, to start with, I'm going to eat 2 to 3 servings of vegetables at one meal per day, and pick a meal so you're being specific for the next 7 days to improve the quality of my diet. So that's a way of doing it. So you bring down the frequency that you're going to repeat the habit, and that therefore you make it more likely that you'll succeed. Can also bring down the intensity. So for example, if you were looking to do press-ups every day, you can say, I'm going to do press-ups before I get into the shower for the next 7 days to improve strength through my chest and shoulders. So rather than aiming for 30 press-ups, if that's too much of a big target, then bring it down, lessen the intensity and aim for 5 press-ups. Because in all likelihood, once you've done your 5, if you're still feeling good, you're going to continue. And having that sense of success from doing more than you intended to is much, much better and much more positive than having a sense of failure because you haven't hit the amount that you wanted to. And think about the units. So rather than having maybe a whole serving, if you hate vegetables, one mouthful of vegetables per meal might be a really good start. And then week in and week out and day out, you can continue to build on that amount or that volume of units per meal. So let's look at identifying the triggers, and we're going to talk a little bit about hot and cold triggers here. So, we know from what we talked about last time that the habit loop can only be initiated with a trigger. You can't just create a new habit out of nothing. There needs to be an event that reminds you, that you kind of piggyback onto or you stack it onto. So, piggybacking onto existing triggers uses your current routine to help build new habits. Because it's a big ask to say, well, I'm going to start a whole new habit. And not only that, but I had to start a brand new routine to get that habit in place. It just doesn't work. So what I want you to do is I want you to sit and I want you to write 2 columns of things. And I want you to write what you do each day and the things that happen to you. It's going to take about 10-15 minutes. But if you want to build new habits, it's 10 to 15 minutes that's really worthwhile completing. And I want you to list everything that you do throughout a day. So it could be cleaning your teeth, could be driving to work, it could be anything. And then in the second column, write down all the things that happen to you. So it could be the sun rises, the postman delivers post, my children wake me up, all of the things that happen to you, because that will give you an idea of things that you can use as a trigger for a new habit. And then what you do is you match the trigger that best fits the habit you want to complete. So if it's I'm going to eat protein at every meal and your trigger point is you do it when you get into the car, that habit doesn't match that trigger. So it could be I'm going to eat protein at lunchtime, because one, you will have prepared your lunch, or you will be in a place where lunch is available, and it's just going to make that habit fit to that trigger much, much more clearly. So hot triggers are the ones that can be acted on right away to perform your habit. So let's have a look at them. So if we look at our 2 columns, everything we do and everything that happens to you. So everything you do could be cleaning your teeth, boiling the kettle, driving to work. Everything that happens to you could be the sun rising, the postman delivering post. Apologies, I've just realised I put kettle rather than kettle. And what we want to say is we want to put attach your habits to these triggers, to the ones that could be acted on right away. So I'm 90 to 100% certain I'll meditate for 10 minutes when I boil the kettle every morning for the next 7 mornings in order to better deal with stress. So we've got our action, we've got our trigger, and we've got our outcome. So the next thing I want to talk about is the importance, again, of writing. If you write it down, you are far, far more likely to act on it, as we talked about. And what I want you to do is track what you're doing. So in the same way that we track our food, because that helps us manage our diet, I want you to track the habits that you are trying to build. So you write down your lists, you decide which habits you want to stick to which trigger, and then I want you to put it in your habit statement, and then I want you to track what you're doing. Have a little notebook, keep it with you, make a note of your habit statements, make a note of each day what you're managing to do, and then I want you to reflect on it. And this reflection's really, really important, because it's about looking back and saying, I really managed to achieve that, that's amazing. It's going to give you confidence and you're going to be more likely to continue. Excuse me. Or you can look back and say, well, I didn't manage to achieve that. And you can look at whether the habit that you're trying to instill is at that 90 to 100% confidence level of being able to achieve it. And by being able to track, being able to reflect, it means that we are constantly managing what we're trying to do. These habits that we're trying to ingrain aren't going to happen by themselves. It's going to take some really consistent work. And the only way you know it's working is if you're tracking and you're looking back on it. So once you've selected your habit, write it down using your habit statement. Track it, keep a score of how many days you're performing the habit, and reflect on it. At the end of the day, ask yourself, what did I do well? Because that's identifying your positive behaviour. What did I learn? And this is something that's really important, and apologies because I have referred to things as failures when things haven't gone to plan. But it's not about failing, it's about learning. So you win because you're achieving what you want to, or you learn. It's really, really simple. So if things didn't go to plan, what can we learn from it and how can we prevent it happening another time? And remember, you win or you learn. And that is the end of that. I will see you next time for underreporting. If you'd like to talk to me about habits, building habits, and things like that, just let me know. Otherwise, I will see you next time.